presenting Food for Thought, a qualitative look into the need for a campus food pantry.
Okay, imagine what it's like to have to make your meal last for a week. Like a pot of rice and an onion, or a medium-sized pizza, or one loaf of bread. These are actually foods that have been stretched to last for a week by our own students here at Wichita State. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 1 in 6 Americans face hunger. And in 2013, 49 million Americans were reported by the USDA to be facing food insecurity. Food insecurity is defined as a lack of access to enough food to all household members due to a shortage of money or resources. And it affects a lot of people, including college students, who a lot of the times live below the poverty line. So terms such as a starving grad student holds a lot more significance than you may think. Now that being said, there are about 30 food pantries here in Wichita. And although we do have 2 pilot food pantries running currently at Wichita State, we have yet to establish a campus-based food pantry.
Oh, I think it looked like it did something. Sorry. Oh. It's the button on the right.
There we go. So our purpose was to assess the Student Government Association in assessing the need for a campus-based food pantry. And our project was also part of the WSU Hunger Awareness Initiative's assessment of hunger on campus. Since 2011, the Hunger Awareness Initiative has accomplished 4 dinner conversation events sponsored by Sodexo, 2 campus-wide surveys with about 1,500 participants, and 1 ongoing web portal that allows students to share stories of what it's like to face hunger. So our method was focus group discussions. Focus groups are structured conversations in which the researcher aims to find the participants' beliefs, attitudes, opinions, and experiences with a specific subject. So we held 3 separate 1-hour focus group sessions in which we asked our participants a set of 10 questions regarding their experience with food insecurity, their perceptions of the need of a campus-based food pantry, and suggestions on how to implement a food pantry here on campus. So our focus groups were conducted by a facilitator who moderated the conversation, a scribe who took thorough notes on a whiteboard, keynotes, and a recorder who took thorough notes and managed the audio recording of the sessions. So our participants were COM 111 students who got credit for taking part in our study, and they were mainly between 18 years old and 24 years old, and we did have outlined 17 years old and 30-year-old and 40-year-old students. So to reduce any inhibitions in our findings and to obtain better data, we kept our groups homogeneous, so that we had 2 groups of domestic students and 1 group of international students only. So our emerging themes are an awareness of the need for students to have access to a food pantry, a concern for nutrition or the desire for the availability of wholesome, nutritious foods, and suggestions on how to implement and manage a food pantry to make it accessible to all students.
As Marcella stated, the first need that emerged from our research was an awareness that WSU does indeed have a need for a campus food pantry. While the majority of our participants stated that they themselves are not currently in need of food assistance, almost all of our participants stated that they knew a student on campus who was. There seemed to especially be a need among international students and students who live on our campus. One student in particular stated, "A lot of people might think that people do have food, maybe because they just haven't really talked about it. But I've talked to many international students and they are really struggling with food." We had a number of other participants, who stated that they knew people living in the dorms who would benefit from a campus food pantry, either because they were unable to travel for food or because their meal plan at the dorm was insufficient for their needs. We also had people from all 3 of our focus groups who were in agreement that if the time did come where they themselves were in need of food assistance, they would find relief knowing that there's a campus food pantry available to assist them. Our second emergent theme was a concern for nutrition. If we are to solve the problem of campus hunger with a food pantry, our participants believe that we should do so by supplying nutritious food options. Many students suggested items such as healthy fruits and vegetables, especially fresh fruits and vegetables, that would provide benefits beyond just ending hunger pangs. One student in particular stated, "I think basic fruits and vegetables that don't have a past expiration date would be good. And high nutritious foods like grapefruit has a lot of vitamin C when compared to other fruit." I myself am actually a graduate teaching assistant here at Wichita State, teaching my own sections of public speaking. And since we conducted this research, I've actually seen this theme emerge within my own classroom as well. My students were asked to competitively speak to receive money in the class, and one of my students gave her speech asking that the class give her the money so that she would be able to afford food outside of just ramen noodles. Unfortunately, it's foods like these that are low or have no nutritional value that many students have to rely on when they are on a restricted budget. And surprisingly, we found that many local food banks actually give out foods like this, like ramen noodles or chips or cookies that don't have a lot of nutritional value. And this is because they're more concerned with how much they are feeding people rather than what they are feeding people. So it's for these reasons that our participants believe that we need to have nutritious options within our food pantry. They also suggested foods that were easy to cook and that could possibly be tailored to international students. Our last emergent theme revolved around suggestions for how we should implement and run the food pantry on campus. If we are going to have a food pantry, some students stated that this would be a great opportunity for students who were looking for part-time work on campus or who needed to meet volunteer requirements. However, a larger population of our sample believe that there's an issue of privacy that comes with having a food pantry on campus. Perhaps students shouldn't be the one running the pantry, because then when a student comes in their time of need, they may feel insecure or embarrassed to see that their peers are seeing their food insecurity. So for this reason, our participants stated that we need to put a lot of thought into where the food pantry would be located on campus. One student suggested that it should be off the beaten path so that you don't have to feel awkward about going and getting food. This idea of embarrassment or shame has actually come up in past research that has been done on our campus as well. In a total of 44 individual surveys and focus groups that were held in 2014, it was found that there's a stigma of shame that comes with having to admit food insecurities. People are embarrassed to have to ask for help, and this is something that many students have problems with. So for this reason, since this theme has come up in multiple studies, we feel that it is something that we need to keep in mind if we are going to implement a campus food pantry.
After reviewing the emerging themes in our focus groups, we have found that much more research is necessary. Further research could indicate how many people know about the food pantries that are already existing by the SGA and Elliott School that have the smaller preliminary food pantries in both the Heskett and Elliott Hall. They could measure how many people use them and what their opinions are. Also, these food pantries could be used as testers to better assess the need of Wichita State for a more permanent food pantry on campus. The World Food Program states that every day the world produces 4.3 pounds of food for every woman, man, and child on the planet. There is no reason for anyone to be food insecure. There is also no reason for any of our students at Wichita State to be food insecure either. If we come together as a community, we can work to reduce food insecurity on campus and become a model for other campuses to follow.
Thank you.
Do you have a sense of why, what are the contributing factors for food insecurity on the campus? To get a sense of what the particular reasons for it were?
Yeah, we asked questions similar to this in our focus groups to kind of see why people were insecure with food within our focus groups. Many students stated that, which I mean it seems kind of like an obvious answer to some, that college is expensive. And for a lot of our students, this is the first time that they're on their own. They may be from out of state or out of city and they've come to live in the dorms and they don't have mom and dad there to cook meals for them or to give them a weekly allowance. And so most students aren't able to, work full time and afford books and afford all the other necessities that come with being a college student. So I think it just happens that there's not enough money as a resource for students to turn to afford the food that they need.
Has there been any trend in people admitting that they're food insecure with the recent increases in tuition?
That's not something that we have looked at with this particular research study. I think that's a great question to address in later research. because that, of course, could be a possibility. It's just not something that we looked at, particularly with this research study.
Question. Have you guys found any research that other campuses across the country that have implemented a food pantry have had a good response to it, that the students do tend to use it, or how their successes maybe are?
Yeah, so we actually got this idea to do this study because we're one of only a few universities that does not have a food pantry. And so for Wichita State to be such an amazing college in our opinions, but not have this for its students is very concerning to us, and I'm sure it's concerning to other students as well. For the most part, it seems that what we've seen from other universities is that it works. And it's just another thing that colleges can provide to their students so that students have a successful time in college as well as an enjoyable time.